Chapter 1. The First Message. Michael Hartman was not a man prone to paranoia. As a seasoned investigative journalist, he had faced threats, exposed scandals, and even stared down the barrel of a gun more times than he cared to count. But tonight, as he sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, his eyes locked onto his laptop screen, he felt an unfamiliar chill creep up his spine. The email in front of him was unlike any he had ever received. The subject line simply read, "Tick-tock." The body of the email was a jumbled mess of characters, numbers, and symbols that looked like a puzzle gone wrong. He recognized the pattern immediately. It was a cipher, one of the most complex he had seen. Despite the rush of adrenaline, his fingers hesitated over the keyboard. "Michael, don't you dare open this," he muttered to himself, knowing full well that he couldn't resist the challenge. He began to decipher it, his journalist instincts taking over. Just as he started to make sense of the first line, his phone buzzed, interrupting his concentration. It was a news alert: local woman found dead in alleyway, suspected homicide. The details were few, but it was clear the crime had been brutal. A shiver ran down his spine as he returned to the email. With urgency, he worked through the symbols, realizing they pointed directly to the crime scene, specific details about the alley, the approximate time of the attack, and even a description of the victim's appearance. All of it was in the message he hadn't cracked in time. "How did they know?" he whispered, stunned by the coincidence. Or was it a coincidence at all? The thought that someone knew this would happen, and had tried to warn him, filled him with dread. Suddenly, another email notification popped up. This time, the subject line read, "Too slow, Michael. Try harder." His heart pounded in his chest as he opened it. Again, the message was an encrypted string of letters and numbers, but now there was a new sense of urgency. Whoever was sending these messages was playing a game, and Michael was the unwilling participant. He realized he had to decipher the code before the next tragedy struck. But what terrified him the most was the implication: if he didn't work fast enough, someone else would die. Would he be able to stop it? Want to know what happens next? Stay tuned and share the story. Hit subscribe to see the twists unfold. Chapter 2. The Puzzle Unfolds. Michael barely slept that night. His mind was consumed by the email, the news report, and the nagging feeling that he was missing something vital. He poured himself another cup of bitter coffee, the clock ticking relentlessly toward dawn. The second message, still encrypted, taunted him from his screen. He needed help, but whom could he trust? He reached out to an old contact, Lisa Park, a cybersecurity expert he'd worked with on a previous investigation. Lisa was sharp, skeptical, and, most importantly, she knew her way around cryptography better than anyone he knew. "I'm sending you something," Michael said when Lisa picked up his video call. Her eyes narrowed as she glanced at her screen. "This isn't just any code," she said, her fingers already flying over her keyboard. "It's layered. Whoever sent this knows what they're doing. Give me a few minutes." While Lisa worked, Michael scanned the latest headlines, anxious for any sign of another incident. The screen remained empty, and he allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Maybe they had a chance to crack this before something else happened. Lisa's voice brought him back to reality. "Michael, this isn't just a random message. It's a warning." She hesitated, her voice tinged with concern. "It looks like it points to a location, a warehouse near the docks. The timestamp suggests it's happening soon. We have less than 2 hours." Michael's mind raced. "If we can get there in time, maybe we can stop it," he said, grabbing his coat. "Send me the coordinates." "Be careful," Lisa warned. "Whoever this is, they're always a step ahead. And Michael, don't trust anyone." As he raced through the deserted streets, his phone buzzed with yet another alert. This time, a single word flashed on the screen: "Hurry." The urgency in that one word chilled him to the bone. It wasn't a command, it was a plea. Michael arrived at the warehouse, the structure looming like a dark monolith against the early morning sky. He crept closer, the silence broken only by the distant hum of the city waking up. Peering through a cracked window, he saw shadows moving inside, a group of figures surrounding something on the ground. He reached for his phone to call the police when a gloved hand clamped over his mouth, yanking him back into the darkness. Can Michael escape and uncover the truth behind these messages? Like, subscribe, and share to find out. Chapter 3. The Threat Revealed. Michael struggled against the grip of the unseen assailant, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. He twisted his body, throwing an elbow into his captor's side. The gloved hand slipped from his mouth just enough for him to gasp for air. "Easy there, Hartman," a low voice growled in his ear. "You're in way over your head." The figure loosened his grip and stepped into the faint moonlight filtering through the broken warehouse window. Michael's eyes widened in shock as he recognized the face. It was Detective Samuel Green, a cop with a reputation for being relentless and, more importantly, incorruptible. Green's face was hard, his eyes drilling into Michael with a mix of frustration and pity. "What are you doing here?" Michael demanded, his voice barely a whisper. "Saving your neck," Green replied, his tone gruff. "You shouldn't have come here alone. These people, they're dangerous, and you're not equipped to deal with them." Michael's mind raced. Was Green in on this? Or was he another player in this twisted game? Before he could question further, a sound from inside the warehouse drew their attention. The group of figures he had seen earlier began to move, dragging something heavy toward the far corner of the building. "We have to stop them," Michael urged, but Green held him back. "Not yet," he said. "We need to know what we're dealing with. This isn't just some random act of violence, it's a ritual. A message. They're orchestrating these events like clockwork." Michael's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. These weren't just crimes, they were statements, planned with meticulous precision, and somehow, he was at the center of it all. "Why me?" Michael asked, more to himself than to Green. "Why am I getting these messages?" "Because you're the storyteller," Green said, his eyes narrowing. "Who better to unravel a conspiracy than a man who spins narratives for a living? They're testing you, Michael. And if you fail, more people die." As Green's words sank in, another message buzzed on Michael's phone. It was from the same cryptic sender. This time, the subject line simply read, "Level up." He opened it to find a new cipher, even more complex than before. Beneath the code was a note, "Your move, Michael. Decipher this, or pay the price." Michael knew then that this wasn't about him being a hero. It was about survival, his and that of the people unknowingly involved in this game. He had to outsmart the mastermind behind these messages before the next tragedy struck. He glanced at Green. "I'll need your help to crack this," he said. Green nodded, his expression grim. "We're in this together now, Hartman. Let's hope we're fast enough. Will they be able to break the code in time? Don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe and stay tuned to see what unfolds. Chapter 4. The Countdown. The warehouse faded into the background as Michael and Green sped away, their minds both fixed on the message they had to crack. They took refuge in Green's small office, a cluttered, dimly lit room that seemed like the perfect hideout from the chaos outside. Lisa joined them through a secure video call, her eyes filled with the same determination Michael had seen when they worked on their toughest cases. "All right," Lisa said, the tension in her voice echoing through the room. "This new code is a beast, but I've already isolated a few patterns. It's designed to mislead, there are layers of fake clues mixed in with the real ones." Michael looked at the sequence on his screen, trying to make sense of the chaos. "They want us to fail," he muttered. "The stakes are higher this time, aren't they?" "Much higher," Green said, glancing at his watch. "If we don't break this soon, we're looking at another incident, one that could be catastrophic." Lisa's fingers danced over her keyboard. "There's a series of numbers here that looks like GPS coordinates. If I'm right, they lead to a location outside the city, an abandoned amusement park." "Amusement park?" Michael repeated, a chill creeping into his voice. "Why there?" "Because it's isolated and no one goes there anymore," Green said. "It's the perfect place to stage a scene with no interference." As they continued to work on the code, the room was filled with the hum of tension. Michael's phone buzzed again. This time, a live video feed appeared. His blood turned to ice as he saw the shaky image of a woman tied to a chair, blindfolded, in what looked like the dusty interior of a long-abandoned funhouse. "You have 1 hour," a distorted voice said through the feed. "Decipher the code or she dies." Michael's pulse quickened. He didn't know the woman, but that didn't matter. Her life depended on his ability to outthink a mastermind who was always one step ahead. Michael, Lisa said urgently, focus on the last sequence. It looks like it's a clue to the funhouse's exact location inside the park. Time is ticking, Green reminded him, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Michael stared at the screen, his mind racing against the clock. He had never felt so powerless and so driven at the same time. Every second counted, and every wrong move meant inching closer to failure. Suddenly, it clicked. There? Michael shouted, pointing to a sequence. It's a shift cipher, but it's disguised as a base 64 code. We need to decode it using a reverse algorithm. Lisa's eyes lit up as she quickly typed in the commands. The screen flickered and then revealed a precise map of the amusement park, with a red dot marking the funhouse. Michael grabbed his coat. Let's go, he said, turning to Green. We might have a chance. Let's hope you're right, Green replied, a grim determination in his eyes. They sped through the empty streets, racing against the clock. The abandoned amusement park loomed ahead, its eerie silhouette twisting in the moonlight. As they reached the entrance, the air was filled with an almost tangible sense of dread. Michael knew this was it, the moment that would decide everything. Can they reach the victim in time, or will they become pawns in this twisted game? Don't miss out, hit subscribe and share to find out what happens next. Chapter 5. Into the funhouse. Michael and Green crept through the broken gates of the abandoned amusement park, the rusty chains of a forgotten carousel creaking in the wind. The place felt haunted, its silence filled with echoes of distant laughter that had long since faded into darkness. They followed the map on Michael's phone, navigating past faded signs and decaying rides, all pointing them toward the heart of the park, the funhouse. They reached the entrance of the funhouse, its garish colors faded and peeling. The sign above the door read House of Mirrors, but now it looked more like a twisted nightmare than a place of joy. Michael hesitated for a moment, the weight of what lay ahead pressing on his shoulders. Ready? Green asked, his voice low but firm. Let's do this, Michael said, swallowing the lump in his throat. They pushed open the creaky door and stepped into the darkness. Inside, the funhouse was a maze of reflections and distorted shapes, the mirrors warping their images into grotesque versions of themselves. Every step felt like walking deeper into a trap. Michael's phone buzzed again, a message flashed on the screen, find her before time runs out. Stay sharp, Green whispered. This place is designed to disorient us. They want to slow us down. Michael's eyes darted from mirror to mirror, each one showing him a different version of himself, one that was frightened, desperate, lost. Suddenly, through the flicker of light and shadows, he saw her, a reflection of the woman tied to the chair, struggling, her blindfold slipping slightly. There? Michael shouted, pointing toward a mirror that seemed out of place. He rushed toward it, pressing his hands against the glass, feeling for any sign of a hidden door. Green quickly joined him, finding a latch hidden in the frame. With a grunt, they pulled the mirror open to reveal a hidden passage. The woman's muffled cries became louder, more frantic. As they entered the narrow hallway, the walls seemed to close in around them. The air was thick and stifling, the smell of dust and decay heavy in their lungs. They reached the room at the end, a cold, dimly lit space where the woman sat, bound to the chair, terror etched across her face. It's okay, we're here to help, Michael said, moving quickly to untie her bonds. But as he did, a low beeping sound filled the room. His heart stopped. Get down. Green shouted, pulling them all to the floor just as a flash of light and a deafening bang shattered the room. When the smoke cleared, they were all still alive, dazed but unharmed. The blast had been more of a warning than a fatal blow. A message painted in red on the far wall caught Michael's eye, you were too slow. The game continues. Michael's blood ran cold. They had saved the woman, but they had still lost. Whoever was behind this was always a step ahead, toying with them, pushing them to their limits. Why? Michael muttered under his breath, staring at the taunting words on the wall. What do you want from me? Green helped the woman to her feet, his face a mask of frustration. This isn't over, Hartman. This was just the beginning. Michael nodded, the pieces of the puzzle rearranging in his mind. He knew they were only scratching the surface of a much deeper conspiracy. And now, the stakes were higher than ever. What does the mastermind want from Michael? Will they uncover the truth before it's too late? Subscribe now to stay on the edge of your seat. Chapter 6. The Mastermind's Game. Back at Green's office, the aftermath of the funhouse incident weighed heavily on them. The woman they had rescued was safe, but still too shaken to provide any useful information. Michael's hands trembled as he reviewed the words from the latest message, still glaring at him from the wall of his memory. The game continues. Lisa's face appeared on the video call, her expression serious. "I've been digging into the source of these messages," she said. "It's sophisticated, almost impossible to trace. But there's something interesting. I found a hidden signature embedded in the code of each message." "A signature?" Michael repeated, leaning closer to the screen. "Yeah," Lisa nodded. "It's like a digital fingerprint, but it's more of a name. It reads as Oracle. Whoever this person is, they want to be known as the Oracle, a puppet master who sees everything before it happens." "The Oracle," Green said, testing the name on his tongue. "They've been planning this for a long time, choosing you specifically, Michael." "Why me?" Michael asked, frustration boiling over. "What do they want from me? I'm just a journalist." "Not just any journalist," Lisa corrected. "You're one of the best at uncovering hidden truths, connecting the dots. They're using you, testing your abilities, seeing if you can keep up with their twisted mind games." Michael sank back in his chair, the weight of realization hitting him hard. The Oracle wasn't just taunting him, they were training him, grooming him for something even bigger. This was only a test, a warm-up to a much grander plan. Just then, his phone buzzed once more. Another message from the Oracle, its subject line reading, "Final round?" He hesitated before opening it, the room falling into a tense silence. When he did, the screen filled with another code, followed by the words, "Find me, if you dare. Or watch as the city burns." Michael's face went pale. This wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. The Oracle was planning something catastrophic, and Michael was the only one who might be able to stop it. He stood up, determination in his eyes. "We're not done," he said firmly, looking at Lisa and Green. "We crack this code, we find the Oracle, and we put an end to this madness." Green nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Good," he said. "Because I was getting tired of being on the defensive. Let's turn the tables on this Oracle once and for all." Lisa smirked. "I've already got a head start on the code," she said. "This time, we'll be faster." As they dived into the final puzzle, Michael felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The stakes had never been higher, but now he had a target, a purpose. He would find the Oracle. He would end this game. And when he did, he would make sure they never played it again. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share your thoughts in the comments.